Hello, and thank you for joining me on this podcast, Navigating Estate Planning with Caress Law. My name is Tammi Caress, and I am founder of Caress Law, and we service clients in Oregon and Washington for all of your estate planning needs. Today, I wanted to have this short episode about the importance of naming your trust as an insured party on your homeowner's insurance.
And now it's time for the disclaimer. The information contained in this podcast and associated material is intended to furnish listeners and users with general information on matters that they may find to be of interest. The information in this podcast provided by Caress Law and its agents are for general guidance and is not intended to replace or serve as a substitute for any advisory, tax, estate planning, or other professional or legal advice, consultation, or service. Sometimes we may reference third-party materials or websites. Such links or references are only for the convenience of the listener, user, or browser. Caress Law and its agents do not recommend or endorse the content of third-party information or sites. You should consult with appropriate Caress Law professionals or other professional advisors for advice concerning specific tax, estate planning, or other matters before making any decision. In summary, this is not legal advice. It is general information, and if you need legal advice, please seek the counsel of an attorney. Thanks so much. In summary, this podcast is not legal advice. If you need legal advice or before acting or making any decision with anything talked about in the podcast, seek the counsel of an attorney. Thanks so much.
I unfortunately have been seeing my clients or some of my clients impacted or loved ones and family members impacted by the Los Angeles County fires. And this is a reason for insurance companies to deny paying out the insurance claims after those fires, which I think is a really terrible thing. But if there's something that you can do now to protect your house and your assets, I think it's really important. This is something that when I meet with my clients, I do have a checklist when they go home to make sure after they've created their trust that their trust gets named on their homeowner's insurance policy. But unfortunately, I know a lot of people do their estate plan and they feel great about that. And then they kind of put it on the shelf and they don't really look at it after it's all done. And this is really an example of how important it is to make sure you do the steps necessary to make sure that your trust works. And I'm starting off by talking about a trust. I have lots of other episodes that talk about a trust, what a trust is, why you would want one, but it is an estate planning tool that many people use to avoid probate, to make sure the assets go out as smoothly as possible once they're gone to their family members. And it's a valuable estate planning tool that's used quite often in my practice. And I know in California, especially, it's used quite often by most individuals because the probate process there is quite expensive. So, when you create a revocable trust, there are certain steps that you need to do to make sure that it works the way it's intended to. And one of those steps is contacting your homeowner's insurance policy and making sure your trust is on that policy as an insured. We do that because we actually, when you have a trust, we take your house and we retitle it so the trust is the new owner. And that's how we keep the disposition of that asset at death private. That's how we avoid probate. That's the common step that we take with most of the assets that you own when you have a trust, is we retitle them to the trust. And so as these wildfires, we're looking at the impact of these wildfires on the families and getting them or hoping that they can get back into their homes one day. We are finding that there are some insurance companies that are denying coverage because of this simple thing, because their house was owned by the trust and they didn't list their house as an insured on the policy. So, hopefully, this is not something that's happened to you or a loved one, but if you have a trust, it's very important to make sure that you take that extra step. I also want to go over with you that if you haven't taken that step and you are in a situation where the insurance is denying coverage, Make sure that you appeal that decision because it might be a situation where the insurance company is denying coverage for a while, hoping that maybe they know they're probably going to accept it on appeal, or they're just kind of delaying because there's so many insurance claims out there, which I agree is not the right way to operate a business. However, I think we all know there's stories out there like that. So, if you for you to appeal their denial of the claim, have a claim that's denied, make sure that you go through the appeals process and be diligent about making sure you follow the deadlines they set forth because they usually have some sort of deadline. So make sure you follow up with the insurance company. Make sure they have a good address to send you paperwork. So that can't be a reason that you miss a deadline if you're appealing. And if your appeal is also denied, then I recommend that you actually contact legal help to help fight that denial. Hopefully, you're not in that situation, but unfortunately, I've heard these stories recently, and I've actually had another attorney deal with this personally, and I want to make sure that we protect ourselves. If you go through this process with creating your trust, you want to make sure it works in the way that it should work. So, once you've created your trust, you want to reach out to your agent for your homeowner's insurance. Let them know that the trust needs to be added as an insured. Consult with them about that. Make sure that it's not going to affect your policy in any way. Go ahead and add your trust as an insured, and then you want to confirm. So it's very important to confirm that the trust isn't insured on that policy. I recommend that once you confirm that you make sure you know where you can find that paperwork. A lot of people store that paperwork in the cloud. I might even go as far as taking a screenshot so you know that, and you can easily pull it up if you need to show that the trust was an insured party, so that if you do find yourself in a situation that your home has been compromised by a natural disaster, at least you can reach that information in the cloud. Also, many people put their trust as owner of their vehicles, and there's reasons to do this and there's reasons to not do this. So definitely talk with your attorney or estate planning attorney about that. However, if your car is owned or titled to your trust, you also want to include your trust as an insured on your auto policy. All right. I know this is a very short episode. We have more episodes to come. I just thought this was super important to get out there and really hope that those folks in Los Angeles County do get their homes back and rebuilt with the insurance company's cooperation. Thank you so much. And until we meet again.
If you're enjoying the podcast and finding value in the content we're providing, we would greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment and support us by leaving a 5-star review on Google. This review helps us reach more people who might benefit from the information and insights we share here on the show. Plus, it lets us know what you like and how we can continue to improve. So if you're finding our podcast helpful and informative, please take a moment to give a 5-star review on Google. It only takes a minute, but it makes a huge difference for us. And also, don't forget to leave a comment too. We love hearing from our listeners, and your feedback helps us shape future episodes. So please help us spread the word and get the conversation going. Thank you so much for your support.